Hello, everybody. I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you. A very good morning to Kenny and very good evening to my RC members who have joined. I'm Dr. Mukesh Srivastav, conducting the session today. Uh, the topic for the day is uh, communication and extension in the rural education, rural development. The students, the learners who are going to be here, that will be, I think, for PGDRD and MARD programs. Let me present a PP to all of you. You can see this?
Yes, I can see the PowerPoint.
Okay, okay. Thank you. So this is the communication and extension in the rural development. This is your RDD7 program under PGDR DOL session July. This is the basically the session coverage. When I talk about what the things I'm going to cover in this session, the definition of the communication, obviously we will talk about what is communication, the elements of the communication process, the different communication channels we can categorize, the different types of channels we can select. Obviously, when we have the different alternatives based on the communication channel, we'll select one out of that communication channel. What will the different aspects of the cross cultural communication we have to understand when we talk about the rural development? The different communication media mix for rural development and the different types of traditional media which we use in the rural areas. When we talk about rural areas, so that means that the communication media mix will be different from the rural area from the urban area. So we'll talk about that. After that, we'll talk about feedback and what are the reasons for giving feedback, how we should give the feedback. That means the guidelines for the feedback, for giving feedback and for the receiving feedback, means both types of guidelines I'll talk about. So let me start with my first topic, that is communication. When I say communication, communication is the process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior. So, communication is a process of information. That means we transfer information in type of in terms of data. It may be a message, it may be a gesture, it may be anything. We transfer this message to any individual using different symbols, signs, and the behavior. They may be the common symbols. There may be some common signs in different cultures, in different types of societies. There are specific behaviors through that we show these information. If I am sitting in front of some person, I will tell him by my gesture, by my language, by my body posture, how I am behaving with him, what kind of information I want to share with him, what kind of data I want to share with that person. So, this is a process of exchanging ideas, concepts, using these kind of symbols, signs, and the behavior. So, these are the common systems. So, this is the process is called communication. Now, how what are the different elements we talk about when we talk about the communication process? There are basically six common elements: sender, encoding, message, receiver, decoding, and the feedback. Sender is that person who is sending the message. That means the individual. It may be any individual, it may be any medium, it may be any source. message is passed on to some receiver. When when that message is going to pass on, that means it may be, if that message in some other language, that message should be encoded. Like if we talk about our computer, we basically talk about high level language, and computer understand the low level language. When we send the information through keyboard, computer encode that value, encode that message, and then pass on to the monitor. Then again, that monitor decode that message from high level to low language, and then low language message to high level language. When we see on the monitor, we see the high level language. That means whatever the is meaning, whatever the language we understand, that is called decoding. And once that message is comes in front of me, that means our communication process is fulfilled. Sorry. Now, when we talk about the different channels existing in that, you can see the chart here: the source, the message, the channel. Then that message is passing over to receiver. Once that message is passed to that receiver, the sensory, that means the receptive organs of the body, they start recepting that. And in that sensory, there are some receptive organs who who take that, who receive this message and decode in our mind language, and then provide the response. This response is basically the feedback, and this feedback move into the source. Now there is another thing which comes in between, that is called noise. These noise are the different kinds of barriers which are existing in between. When we talk about communication process, the communication process is fulfilled when the message is passed from source to the receiver, and receiver sends the response and the feedback to the source. That means communication process or communication total process is completed. But there is a noise also in between. This noise is basically the barrier of that communication channel. When this noise level is more, the decoded or encoded message can be debarred, or it cannot be correctly sent to the receiver, or sometimes the receiver cannot receive this message correctly. Our sensory organs or the receptors existing in the body, they cannot may not receive these messages in the form they have been sent to us. So that means noise is the part which we need to remove or lessen in between. So when we talk about the messages, the communication process, we have to control on noise factor within that communication process. I have some examples for that also. Like I have the example of Doordarshan. Doordarshan is a local TV channel in India. The source is Doordarshan. Obviously, from that TV channel, we pass on some messages, like some, for the rural areas, we provide a specific program that is called Krishi Darshan. Krishi Darshan means the this particular program is for the farmers who provide this particular program provides the different types of knowledge and skills to our farmers. When they are working on the fields, they can use these informations related to the seeds, information related to the filtration, the soil, the water quantity. Means these kind of information is given by these source. And what the channel we are using, the channel is TV set. Obviously the medium is that TV set. And who is the receiver? The viewer who's seeing, who's watching, that farmer who's watching that particular television set. This is, that person is the receiver of that program. Same, if I take example of newspaper, what kind of channel we take here? uh, we have a source of newspaper firm. Obviously that newspaper firm is the source of that information. What they do, they pass on the message. What is the message? That is in the form of news. And then Channel is the newsprint. That means that particular message or news is printed on a paper and provided to the receiver. That receiver is basically the reader. Then we have to see what kind of feedback we can provide. That yes, there are certain mediums or channels where instant feedback we cannot provide, like if we talk about television sets, if we talk about newspaper, we cannot provide instant feedback for that. So for that purpose there are different channels for providing feedbacks in these kind of situations. Now now we have to talk we will I'm going to talk about the different kinds of communication channels. What are the different kinds of channels, how we interact with the people, how we communicate, how we pass on our message, whatever we are intended to pass, how we pass on that message to the person sitting in front of. There are basically two communication channels: interpersonal channels and mass communication channels. When we talk about interpersonal channels, that means we are talking about the face to face communication, the person sitting in front of you, and I am asking some questions or transferring some information or passing on some messages to that particular person. He is receiving and providing instantly, he is providing us the feedback. It may be cosmopolite or localite. Basically, interpersonal channels have two types of categories. That is, personal cosmopolite channels or personal localite channels. If I talk about personal cosmopolite channels, they may be categorized as communication within extension agent. It may be an extension agent. It may be any change agent. It may be farm input supplied to the personnel or the person from the villages. Obviously, when we talk about rural communication, we will talk about the farmers, how we are passing the information related to their farming using these change agents. These are extension agents or the change agents who are there in the field, who provide the different kinds of information to these farmers and the different villages. Another thing is that is personal localite. Like if I am a farmer itself and I want to share some information with our neighbors, with our friends, some family members related to that farming, that means it is called personal localite channel. That means the persons nearby me are called personal localite channel. And if I am having some specific expertise in communicating some specific area of farming, that is called personal cosmopolite channel. Another thing is that is the another channel is mass communication channel. If I talk about mass communication channel, that means I am talking about in impersonal or cosmopolite channels. That means whatever the information is with me, I want to spread that information in the big group or in a mass person. That means I want to cover maximum person living in that particular locality or in that village or in that particular rural area. This count may be a larger one. Obviously, when we talk about interpersonal channels where we do face to face communication, the count of that particular communicative person is very low. But when we are having a mass communication channel, that means the number of persons who are going to receive my message, it's a bigger number. So for that purpose, what we have to do, we have to choose a specific mass communication medium or mass communication channel, like radio, newspapers, films, magazines, televisions, because the spread of that particular news or the spread of or the coverage of that particular medium is too high. If we talk about radio, many persons listen radio every time newspapers are having a coverage of a specific particular area, locality, or the village, or the particular rural area. Films also can be the medium through which we can make a change in the bigger population. Magazines and the television, obviously television is also a bigger medium. Like I have already talked about the Doordarshan we are having in India. The Doordarshan having a program like Krishi Darshan, We in that Krishi Darshan program, we telecast the we telecast the different types of uh, telecast the different types of informative programs regarding their farming. What kind of
Doctor,
equipment?
I think I can't hear you. I don't know if you're hearing
Okay,
me, but I
okay.
can't hear you.
1 minute, 1 minute. Let me check. Let me check. Let me check. Is it okay now? Is it audible now?
No, still I can't hear you. I'm just using
1 minute.
incoming messages. A text one, not
One
your
minute.
voice.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Now you can hear me.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm again going to share my screen. Now, is it visible now? Kenny, can you see this?
Yes, I can see the PowerPoint.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I was talking about the interpersonal channels and the mass communication channels. Interpersonal channels means when we are communicating face to face, that means the number of persons communicating through which we are communicating is very low, or it may be a 2% or more than 2%. And the mass communication channels, that means if we are having a greater number of people in which we have to spread the news or spread the information. For that purpose we use mass communication. I was talking about the television show in India that is called Krishi Darshan. What we do for the farmers, we telecast different farming programs, means the different information related to seed, related different information related to our farms, about the soil, what kind of water quantity is needed. There are different kinds of farming we do. Obviously different kinds of grains we have in India. So what we do, we provide different kinds of information related to these grains, how these grains have been seeded, how the farming has been done, what kind of quantity of water and the fertilizers is needed for them, what should be the quality of fertilizers. So these kind of information we provide on this Krishi Darshan show of this television. That means we want to cater the mass medium, the mass people, a big number of people of the country. But the challenge is that we cannot cater in this kind of, when we do mass, we use mass communication channels, we cannot cater the specific specific problems related to some specific farmers. So for that purpose we can use interpersonal channel. But if we have some generalized information for all the people, all the persons living in that rural area, what we can do, we can use these mass communication channels. Now now it is a big question ki which kind of channel we are going to select. So we have this particular, what these are some specific question with us, through which we can select our channel. What is available? Obviously it's a bigger question when we move into some rural area. So obviously very limited resources are available there. That means we have to understand which kind of channel is available for us. Second question is how much money can we spend. Cost is a bigger constraint. When we talk about budgetary constraint, cost is a bigger thing for us. So how much money we want to spend on that particular channel for selecting that. So it's also a decision. It's also a decision we have to be very cautious while taking. Third thing is what channel is preferred by the source as well as receiver. When we talk about the different sources, now when we talk about source, that means we are talking about that specific channel. and the receiver, that means the person who's seeing or receiving the message from that source. Both are very important for us. Like if we talk about newspaper, so whatever the newspaper agency is with us, what kind of channels that particular agency is seeking, and what kind of message is being going to be received preferred by that particular receiver. Fourth is which channels are received by most people. That means I'm talking about the coverage of that particular channel. If I'm talking about television, you have to see whatever the coverage of the television in some particular area. If you are talking about radio, that means you have to understand the coverage of that area. If we talk about newspapers, that means we have to understand, we have to have the data of the newspaper coverage in that particular area. So we have to choose that particular channel which have the bigger coverage, so that we can cover most of the population of that particular area. Another question is which channel have the most impact. Yes, it is very important. Obviously, the channel, the medium, the source we are using, we have to understand the impact of that particular source. If some particular channel is having a lower impact on the population, and we are continuously making investment on that particular channel, that means it will be a useless for us. So we have to understand what channel we are using and how much that particular channel is having the impact on those rural population. Because that channel we are going to use, that means we are going to make the investment. And also we have to check how much the particular persons of that particular rural area they are going to receive of that. Now, another question is which channel are more adaptable to the kind of purpose which the source has. Now, if we are using the newspapers, obviously newspaper is a cheaper mode, because we can have 6 or 7 rupees a paper per day. So that is affordable, and that can be afforded by those receivers. That means I'm talking about the poor farmers and the poor people living in that rural area. That channel can be affordable by them. But if some important information, or which kind of if we are using television specific advertisement, or the sources having some specific advertisement, where they are going to make more investments. So that means we have to understand the receiver, that means the person, and the source, if they are choosing the right adaptable mode of communicating some information, or the kind of purpose they are having. That means if we talk about the specific seed, so that means if we are providing through that newspaper, that will not, because much information will not be catered to that newspaper. We have to give elaborated information using television. But television is more uh, costlier for that particular person. So in that case, we have to understand cost is more important, or that particular purpose is more important. Next is which channel are most adaptable to the content of the message. Now it is again the talk I'm talking about the content in that particular message. What the information you are going to use through that particular channel. Is that information is so necessary, or it's a regular information you are going to give to that particular rural person, or how much importance you are giving to your content, or what is the length of that content, how much you are going to brief that content. So that means, which is very important to understand, what how much the content you are giving. If it is a brief message, you can use a newspaper. If it's a large content, or the detailed content, that means you can use magazines. Or if you want to give a thorough information about that particular thing, so you can use televisions and radios. But the cost of radio and television is more. So that means you have to understand what is the balance in between. You have to meet out that optimum cost level. Now, These are the different styles of communication, communicate how we communicate the persons living in the society or living in that particular rural area. Because here I'm talking about the communication and extension in the rural development. That means I'm talking about those persons who are living in that rural area. That means maybe possible their education level is not so much, maybe possible they don't have so much of awareness about the things. So what kind of things we can do? We can use friendly style of communication with them. We have to use the language, we have to use the social acceptability of those persons, we have to be like them, and then we have to talk, give the particular information to them. So these are the things we can do with them. Another style of communication is directive, persuasive, demanding, and blaming. When I'm saying directive, that means if some direction needs to be given for some specific reason, how that farming has to be done, how the different uh, uh, things or the different animals we are going to, there are also a term that is called animal husbandry. When we are talking about animal husbandry, that means how you need to understand what kind of, like, if some person is uh, having goats at their, goats and cows and buffaloes, they are having, they are making they are taking care of these types of animals in their house, and this is the source of livelihood of them. That means you have to make them understand, you have to be a directive approach, you have to be a persuasive approach, you have to tell them how to take care of these types of these animals. You have to give them what can be the other means to use these animals, what are the different types of fooding habits they have to generate for these kind of animals. And also, if you are, if they are having certain wrong practices with them, so that means you have to blame them as well, you have to correct those wrong habits or the wrong mechanism they have been adapted. Another thing is, that is when we talk about speculative, intuitive, searching, exploring, and intellectual. That means I'm talking, this is basically I'm talking about little bit higher class people. That means if they have certain knowledge level, there are some villages, or they are having, there are some persons in the village or in some rural area who have certain information about their farming, and little bit information about their farming and animal husbandry and the healthcare issues. So that means they have to be explored in that area, they have to be some intellectual. So, and that means we have to, the style of communication will be changed with them. If we are an extension worker, so that means, or I am a change agent in some village, that means I'll talk to them in some different way, in different intellectual way. That means we have to understand the caliber, the mental level, the intellectual level, the person is sitting in front of me. Accordingly, we have to adapt the style of communication. Last style of communication, that is disclosing, revealing, expletive, responsive, accepting, and aware. That means I'm talking about the information or the messages who are basically we have certain information, and that information is not with that villager or the person. What we will do in that case, we will try to share as much as information. I will disclose all the facts related to that particular thing. Like, if I'm talking about farming or to some villager, I will see what are the practices that person is adapting, and what kind of practices we can share with them. Or if there are some wrong practices they have taken in their farming practices, what we will do, we will try to correct those practices and give them the right information, obviously about it, it may be about seed, it may be about budget, it may be about soil, it may be about farming techniques, it may be about accepting the different kinds of technologies. Right now we are engaging with these farming. So that means the information which we have, being an informative person, we will try to disclose with these persons and try to make them available all types of techniques and also the information which we have. So that means this is the style of communication. That means we will be responsible. This is the better thing is to listen them properly and then give the answer of their questions, because they have ample number of questions with them when they do these kind of activities. So obviously you have to be ready with accepting all the questions, and you have to make them aware as much as possible. Now another thing is that is called cross cultural communication. Like you all are sitting in Africa, I'm sitting here in India, but there are some specific gestures or postures or the greeting techniques which are common in all of the world. So that is called social courtesies. That means we have to understand, mm, because it is a cross cultural communication, even then there are something in common in between us. What are those common things? We have to understand and use those common things. Like we have the common, if I talk about language, language is the common thing in between you and us. So that means when we are talking about this common thing, so we are basically communicating in that particular language. There are some certain social courtesies, like if you do good morning, good afternoon, these are some social courtesies which are common in between us. So that means when something is common in between us, even if we talk about the COVID times, the namaste is a greeting term or the greeting gesture of India, which has been adopted by whole of the world, because nobody was shaking hands with them in that at a point of time. So these are some social courtesies which we have common, so we have to share these information. Another thing is the flow of information. Flow of information, culture. Flow of information means we have certain information, like we are sitting in India and we are trying to share all sort of information related to rural development. The person sitting in Africa, that means you can get the information from here, you can use this information in your country for their development. The person living in your country, you can use this information for their development, for their positive things or their good things. Culture, obviously there are some positive about your culture, there are some positive about my culture. So what we will do, we will cater something from your culture, and we will provide certain positives from our culture. And same here, assertiveness and honesty. So we need to understand what are, what are the what are the certain things you can use from my culture, and then this is called cross cultural communication. Junaid, please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Now, uh, now I will talk about the communication media mix for rural development. Now, when we talk about the rural areas, normally what we do, the communication medium is different in rural areas from the urban areas, because we understand the requirement of these. It is totally different from the urban areas. Obviously, in urban areas, people are having more facilities around them, and also they we assume that they are more education level is more there. But in rural areas because they have the different sort of composition of their lifestyles. They live in, they live near to the nature. They have different kinds of facilities available with them that is not available with those particular rural urban areas. Yes, they have certain equipments, some materials in urban areas which these rural persons are not having. So that means the communication aid is different in the urban rural areas. The term audio-visual aid, like I have mentioned over here, the audio-visual aids refers to the equipments and the materials used in the communication information, skills and the knowledge. Obviously, what we try to communicate them, we communicate the information, the skills and the knowledge level with them. Now, what are the information? Information related to their farming, for their development, for their knowledge, for their health, for their animals, for their farming, for their agriculture. These are sort of information we share with them, or we provide as much as information with them, being a extension agent or the change agent. And what are the skills? Obviously, they have their own skill sets. What we try to do, we provide the skill sets which are required for their betterment of their lifestyle, for changing their attitudes. Sometimes what happen in the rural areas, people are not ready to accept these, not ready to accept the new types of skills because they thought think that these skill sets what they are having, they are enough with them. But this doesn't change their lifestyles and the behavior towards them. So what we try to do, we provide certain knowledge level, certain more informative sessions for them, so that they can have more knowledge about the different kinds of grain. Like some person is growing wheats from ages, from their different paternal ages, but still they have not raised their lifestyles. So what we can do, we can suggest them the different kinds of grain which can be beneficial for them, for their country as well, for their area as well. So these audio visual aids we can use in that point of time. So they are called instructional educational aids. Audio visual aids are classified as, like you have already seen, that one is audio aids and some are visual aids. And we combine, when we combine this is called audio visual aids. Audio aids are those means when we use some aids for listening only, and this is the primary process of communication. And we use visual aids for seeing some primary process of communication. So seeing and listening, these are more important, both are more important, both are important thing. But we use different kinds of medium to portray our different kinds of information in front of these rural people. Now see, the next slide you can see there, what are the different kinds of aids available. First, in the first part in the left corner you can see the audio aids. These audio aids are radio, different kinds of recording. They recording can be played on gramophones, on the tape recorders and the audio cassette. In the older ages we used to have audio cassettes, then some CD players have come in the market. We use those CD players. And there also the public address system as well. We use these audio aids to communicate our different kinds of messages, the different messages related to the whatever the education we want to pursue with them in that particular rural areas. So we use these audio aids. There are certain visual aids as well. Now there are three types of visual aids: non-projected, projected and other types. Like when we talk about non-projected, the non-projected means when we have certain charts, bulletins and the pictures in the graph, we show the different rural persons. These are some pictures. This way you can use some equipment, or if we are making them aware about some specific scheme of government. So that means this is called non-projected. That means we are not projecting anything on some wall or some paper. This is called non-projected. And another visual aid is called projected. Like if we use slides. Now what I am doing here, we are using slides here. So that means it's a projective techniques. It's a projective technique. of communication. And film strip, we can use short films. We can use these short films in the rural areas. Opaque projectors, overhead projectors, LCD projectors, we can use as projective techniques of visual aids. And other types of methods are, that is, exhibitions. Like when we cattle exhibitions, we can do in these rural areas, or different kinds of seeds exhibitions, or we can do demonstrations when there are some exchange agents who move into fields, and the different farmers in different villages, they go there and demonstrate to how to do cropping there, how to use seeds there, how to use certain equipment, certain machinery, while a certain technology while doing farming. And there are certain field trips. There are different government societies and government NGOs are there in India. What they do, they move into certain villages, and in these villages they do a field trips. Means with them, with the villagers, they go into that particular fields and tell them this is the appropriate method to do. And also the different publications as well. Means it may be some published records of government, it may be some unpublished record of government. They let them see these are the different schemes proposed by the government for their beneficial. They can avail, like there are certain credit schemes by the bankers. There are some insurance schemes given by the different, even government provide the different insurance scheme, credit, like in India we do kisan credit cards. That means these credit cards are given to the farmers. This is basically a loan given to the farmers on the very subsidized interest rates. Another thing is, if we combine those audio visual aids, that means if we use motion pictures, televisions, videotape, CD-ROMs, these are the combined both, means audio and video, both aids have been combined. This is called audio visual aids. So these are some classification of audio visual aids which we can use in rural areas. Now, there is a research based on that is done by Dale in 1956 and Jules D in 1953. Based on the experience, based on their researches, they have find that this particular cone of experience. Now let's see what is this cone of experience. You can see in the above in the first part, verbal symbols and visual symbols. Verbal symbols are basically those symbols which are which particular giving some experience to the rural persons, or the persons, or the villagers living in that rural areas. Experiences involving symbols, that means whatever the experience they are getting using these symbols, this is the lowest count. That means they have the lowest impact on the lifestyle, on the attitudes and the behavior of those persons living in the rural area. If we talk about the experiences involving observation, that means what they are seeing, they are basically observing using some other techniques. What are these techniques? Radio recordings, some still pictures have been given to them, some motion pictures have been given to them. They watch different kinds of programs on televisions. Some video tapes have been circulated in some area. Some exhibitions are given there. Some field trips are given to them. So what, and some demonstrations of different equipment and machinery in the farming is given to them. That means they actually are not participating. They are having, they are just observing what is happening in that particular movie, or in that radio, or in the recording, or in the television program, or some in exhibition. So that means this is called non-participatory observation. That means they are not participating in that particular, but just observing from outside and getting some experience out of those activities. Whatever the knowledge they are generating from them, it is little bit higher than those experiences of symbol. But if you see, when we use the participative observation. Now, what is this participative observation? Experiences involving doing. That means when we use these members or the persons in that particular experimentation or in that particular method of communication, then actually they start feeling more knowledgeable in that particular case. Like if we use dramatized experiences, if we use these rural person in some drama, there are certain drama acts are happening in different areas of villages, so they get more experience, and also they feel themselves enriching of that experiences. These are contrived experiences which they are gaining there. So this is a direct and purposeful experiences they are generating from them. That means participative observation is the most is the most powerful experiences they are generating from them. So that means from this research it's very clear. That means if we involve these rural persons in these kind of dramatic acts, or some experimentation, or provide certain experiences, or help them practically in their problems, so that means they face less problems, and this is a fruitful experiences. This basically help them more in benefiting their life, and also in their increasing their knowledge levels, and the benefiting their particular farming or the different problem they are facing in that particular area. So this cone of experience is basically very important for us to understand what sort of communicative technique we have to adapt while moving into the rural areas. Now, see, types of traditional media which we use in rural areas. Obviously, we don't have theaters, big theaters like we have in urban areas. So, what we do, we use traditional folk theaters. Folk means the specific traditional conventional method of portraying the different specialities of some particular area. This is called folk theaters, है ना? We basically conduct these kind of traditional folk music there, like puppetry shows and the different oral literature we organize in some particular village or some rural area, or we conduct some music shows or folk music shows relating that particular area. What we can do, we can use traditional youth clubs, like some youth of some specific village or some specific town we can use and make them traditional youth clubs, and they can basically exaggerate the information and the messages which you can generate to them. So that means in that youth club, they may be very beneficial for that particular area, because whatever the information or the messages you want to flow through these youth clubs, you can spread out in that particular whole area. So that can cover a mass of that particular population. Even folk dances, fairs, and festival we organize in different villages. So what these folk dances and fairs and festivals do, they basically come together the different culture of that particular area at one place, and these are the basically areas, or these are basically the times when we can spread out the words, or we can communicate, or we can promote the different, like different government schemes can be promoted there, different programs related it, different information related to their farming, and different health issues are spreading in that particular. We can spread out these traditional motifs and ritual drawings. Obviously, there are some specific traditional motifs which are relating to that each and every village or each and every area, and there are some rituals which every rural area performs. So if we can draw certain conclusion out of that, and we can give some information related, or we can use our information in convergence with those ritual informations, so it will be very grateful That means they will accept our views or information very conveniently. And there are also sound signals and derogate which basically, like if we drums are being drums specific sounds or specific bottles, we make different kinds of sounds which basically shows or basically present some specific community or cause. So in that community development program, we can use these traditional mediums for communicating our information relating to these exhibits. Now, if we talk about the different media mix for rural development, so we need to understand what kind of purpose we have, for using that kind of media mix. Like, if we are just trying to increase the knowledge and awareness level for something, so what we can do, there is a effective media mix that can be, you can use radio, posters and different publications. So now, different booklets, folders, leaflets, graph charts, you can use this effective media mix in that particular case. But you should be very clear what is the purpose of that communication. If you want to improve some skill, so obviously, if you if you give some information using radio and poster for improvement of the skill, that will be less accepted by these people. So what is the correct method? The method demonstration and the flashcards and the models will be work more efficiently for you for improvement of those skills, if you are having the purpose of improving their skills. Now, change of attitude. Now, it is very important. If you are creating some awareness and increasing the knowledge level of those person, that doesn't mean that means their attitude is going to be changed. So for changing the attitude is a bigger question. If you continuously doing these poster ways, or if you information folder and photographs you are circulating on publications, you are circulating every time, and all the information is provided on the radio and the televisions, that means after some times you can see the change in the attitude, because the acceptance level of the information is very low in the rural areas. So you have to increase the level. That means you have to increase the media mixes in that particular area to change the attitude of the person. Change of behavior to the accept improved practices. Yes, if they are ready to change their attitude, then obviously you can see the change in the behavior. So for that purpose, you have to see the demonstration of the results. Whatever the methods you are trying to adapt, you have to make them the make see the result of those demonstration. You go into the fields with them, being a exchange extension agent or the change agent. You keep visiting their fields and give them the suggestions that this is the right practice, you have to adopt this. This is the improved practice, this is the improved technology, you have to adapt this. Like, if if they are using some conventional methods and conventional technology right from their beginning, that means they that particular practice is not going to give benefits to them. So what you can do, you can provide you can provide the different results of your technique. That means how much the results you are getting in your technique, and whatever the result is, we are getting in the improved technique. So when they will see the results, difference between the results of both the techniques, then only in that case they will be using this particular technique, and this will change the behavior. And in that case only this can change the behavior. The purpose of the communication should be very accurate. You have to understand what is the purpose of your communication. If you are moving into the first time and you want to see the change in the behavior, that will not happen in that time. That means you have to start from the first step. First increase the knowledge and the awareness, then improve work on improvement of their skills, then the change of attitude, then they will change their behavior. So this is a step by step process, and you have to use different kinds of media mixes in that rural development. Now, if I talk about the types of communication methods, now there are three methods. I'm already told you in starting that there are basically two types of method, that is interpersonal and mass communication channels. But if we talk about, there is in between, that is group methods. So what are the different methods we can adopt for communication? That was basically the channel. Now I'm talking about the methods: individual methods, group methods, and mass methods. If we talk about individual methods, so what you can do, you can use home visits, office calls, personal letters. You can send them personal letters, technical manuals, tutorials you can do, give to these rude persons. Obviously there are some self learning they will generate out of this. So these are some individual. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to maintain a face to face contact with the respondent or the persons living in the rural areas. Now another thing is group. Individual communication method comes composite of one or two person at a time. But if we talk about group method, that means we are talking about more than two persons or a group of person. So what you can do, we can hold meetings, we can use study tours for them, we can do role playing, means dramatic act, we can do that. We can use group discussions. Through that group discussion, the drawings will come. So in those results and drawings, they can understand what are the better method or the better practices. You can use OSTs, you can use slides, the demonstration of the different techniques, different methods. You can use flip charts, boards, models, blackboards. Obviously on the blackboard you can make them draw the different kinds of pictures. What if you have some data, you can show that data to them, wall charts, drama groups. So these are the different group methods. You cannot, when you are having, you are facing a smaller group, like if you are making some contact methods in some specific village only. But if you are going to create cater to some mass market, it means a bigger market of rural area, so what you will do, you can use this mass method, that is called pamphlets, posters, newsletters, radio, cinema slides, strikers, stamps, calendars, newspapers, coins, banners, billboards, slogans, booklets. These are the methods you can use for mass communication. So, till now, I think I've covered many things. So, if you have any question, you can ask me right now, or you can write on the chat box as well. Can we have? We can take 5 minutes break. I'm audible to everybody.
Yes, you are
Yes.
audible.
Okay, Kenny, have you got any question?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah, yeah, sure. You can ask. We can discuss with them.
Okay. I was looking at communication.
Yes.
So if you are an agent of change in the community,
Okay.
when it comes to selection of a communication media,
Okay.
can you also can you also use Rogers' theory of diffusion to choose which type of media to use?
Uh, Please repeat your question. I cannot understand. Which kind of medium you are going to use in which time? You are asking for
Yeah,
the
I mean,
time.
can we factor in the Rogers theory
Okay.
of diffusion before we choose a medium to use for communication in the rural communities?
When you are going to select a channel or the media, you have to understand which is, I've already tell you what is available and how much the budgetary constraint you are having. Budgetary constraint means how much money you are having, you are going to going to invest on that particular channel or the particular medium. So in that case, you have to see what is the budgetary constraint and what medium is available for you. And also there are different kinds of messages which are being not receptive by different kinds of people. Like if I talk about the different if the person is really poor and living in the rural area, and he is not having the affordability to having a television, and you are catering some information on the television, so that means in that case, that television medium will not work for you. So that means in that case, what you will do, you will try to cater that particular channel which can cater to the lower income group population. So what you can do, you can use newspapers in that, you can use pamphlets in that, you can use booklets, so that you can go and visit to these person and circulate the information in between. That will not take any kind of cost from that particular receiver. Obviously the cost is on the both part. If we talk about the receiver, he is going to bear the cost for the information, and if you are a source, so that means you are going to bear the cost on that particular channel. So both ways, if you are having that budgetary constraint, you have to look which will be affordable and what will be the optimum decision we have to make at that point. I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, I have written it in a chat box.
Okay, okay, okay. Rogers diffusion model, can we take it in consideration before choosing channel and depending on message you want to share? Roger diffusion model. I think I have not gone through this model, so I cannot suggest you what is that model. But if you give me some lights about that, ki what is this model? Rogers diffusion model. I think you are talking about the complex model. If I am correctly understanding this, diffusion model is basically that model when we take a mix of the different communication channel. Again, I am saying the same thing. If you are taking the mix of the communication channels, in that case also you have to understand what is the availability budget, what is the budgetary constraint, and how much the cost that particular receiver is going to have. So that means in both the cases you have to check what is the affordable cost. In both the ways you have to understand, if the receiver is not ready to get you the information in that cost, what you will do. So in that case you have to understand first the priority of that particular receiver, he on what communication channel he is going to adapt that particular information. And if that particular person or the receiver is ready to take the information from you at that cost, then only you have to choose that particular channel or the communication mix model. Okay.
Ah, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
uh, Junaid, Nohar, you have any question? Okay. Now, we'll take a 5 minutes break, then we'll start the next thing. Junaid, Nohar, have you got any question? Okay, let's start again. Should we start now? Kenny, Junaid?
Yes, we can start.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, till now we were talking about how we are going to pass on the message. Now I'm going to talk about how we'll receive the feedback. Now, if we talk about the effective feedback, that is verbal and non-verbal communication to a person or group, providing information as to how their behavior is affecting or influencing you. That means whatever you have got, the feeling about or the information about the communication what you have done, you can provide the feeling or the provide the sentence to them ki how much that particular commission is affecting to you. That is basically called effective feedback. So that means if I am saying effective feedback, that means verbal and non-verbal. Both type of communication techniques are come here. Verbal techniques, if we talk about verbal communication, what is verbal communication? Verbal means it is a written type of communication. Whatever we have, if we have some posters or we have written document, if we have passed on some message through writing a letter to somebody, it's a verbal communication. And what is the non-verbal communication? That means through our senses, through some symbols, or through our gesture or some body gestures, we are trying to communicate certain to the persons in sitting in front of us. That means it's a non-verbal communication. In both ways, the person sitting in front of you can provide you the feedback, and if he is providing an accurate responses about your information, that means he is giving you the effective feedback. Now, how to give the feedback? It's a very great good question. That is how to give feedbacks. When the other person has indicated willingness to receive it, obviously when the other person is sitting in front of you, where to whom you are going to give the information, if he is willing to receive the information, willing to give willing to get the information, that means then only you have to give the feedback. If that person is not indicated you and he is not indicated his willingness for giving receiving the information, then in that case you need not to give any kind of feedback. Unsolicited feedback. Solicited feedback, that means which is ready to be accepted. And when unsolicited feedback is there, that means who is going to accept that? Whatever the communication you are doing with the farmer, you are going to that do that communication for changing their lifestyle, for their attitudes, for their behavior, for improvement of their skills. But if they are not ready to accept that information, or ready to accept that particular skill set, what you will do in that case? You have to be shut your mouth, and you have to keep looking other ways to how to communicate that well, so that he can start he can show his readiness or the willingness to receive that information. So in that case, you have to not give the feedback to that person. Use terms use terms that describe others behavior with the least amount of interpretation, and that accurately describes the behavior. Obviously, when you are providing the feedback, that means do not interpret the others person behavior. You have to give an accurate information, accurate description of the behavior, what the information he has or his that person has given to you. And very importantly, that feedback should be timely. Now, now we are going to play a game now. I'm going to show you a video. All of you are ready? Let's see this video.
Yes, let it.
Let's see this video. You all can see this?
Yes, I can see it.
I think you like this video. Was it good?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah. Now, my question is my question is regarding this video. How you will describe this video? Just give me a description of this video.
I
What
think it's a
this but yes, yes, I'm asking you what is this video is describing or intended to say?
this video I think has chosen some celebrities in sports,
Okay. Yes.
and these celebrities are promoting the brand of Nike.
Yeah. Good. And what the message they want to give?
Um, just to tell us that Nike is associated with celebrities or people who are well known. If you go for Nike, then you go for the class because
Yes.
it is associated with what? The class
Yes. The
of
class.
Serena Williams, Neymar, Muhammad
Yeah.
Salah.
Yeah. Serena Williams, Mo Farah. Yeah, these are some sports celebrities in this video. The message was very loud and clear. What I intended to come, like this is the way we look the things. You have seen this video, and your feedback was different, and my feedback is different. My feedback is with that message that I have seen that video, and I have that particular line in my mind that how you are going to start your life, you cannot decide that, but how it going to be end, it's you will decide how it going to how it will be end. Getting? So that means uh, this is the two-way feedback. Like whatever the perception you are having in your mind, you have taken that feedback or given me the feedback, and whatever I've seen in that video, I've seen that particular feedback. So how these feedbacks uh, comes or begins. Now there is a Johari window model. Have you gone through this model before? Johari window. Seen this model before?
No, no, it's my first time.
Okay. Okay. See this. There are basically there were some psychologists, Henry. He was in 1968. He has given the Johari window model that talks about the personality traits. There are basically four quadrants of the personality existing of every human. First is arena, another is blind spot, another is fake it, and fourth is unknown. When we talk about arena, that says things I know, things you know. That means in person in front, sitting in front of me, I'm conveying my some communication, some message to that person. So that means he's talking about the things I know and things you know. That means I'm talking about that particular quadrant where we are talking about those aspects of the things or the communication or the information which both the persons know. I also know and that person also know. Next is the blind spot. Things I do not know about myself that you know. That means it is the blind spot in my personality. Blind spot is, that means the person sitting in front of me that know what that I don't know. This is the blind spot of the personality, of any personality. Third is fake it portion of the quadrant of the personality. That is, you do not know that I know. That means I know much more things that you do not know. That means person sitting in front of me whom I am telling the information, that means he do not know what I know. And the fourth quadrant is that is called unknown, means things you do not know and things I do not know. Means both the person who are communicating to each other, there is a portion of information both the persons are unaware of that particular portion. Now what we have to do while communicating, or while we have to improve on the feedback portion, what we have to do, we have to shift this fake it portion on the both side. What is happening here? You see here, knowledge to self, no, unknown to self, known to self and unknown to self on the column portion, and in the rows portion there is known to others and unknown to others. Arena is that portion where known to self and unknown to others, both the portion is, means there are the information in the arena which is known by both persons. And when I talk about the blind spot, this is the blind spot in our personality. That means other persons know about me, but I don't know about myself. This is a blind portion of everyone's personality. Now, when we talk about unknown portion is unknown to self, unknown to others. That means we cannot give feedback of those information which I don't know. And the other person also cannot give any kind of feedback about me because he don't know about that particular information. So this is the unknown portion of the personality. But what we do, we basically try to increase this fake it portion. If you see the fake it portion move into the right side, if we are making this particular fake it portion in bigger and bigger, that means we are trying to increase that area, increase the knowledge level where known to self is bigger than unknown to others. That means the knowledge level of mine is bigger than the person sitting in front of me, he has having the low knowledge level. So that means always try to improve your knowledge level so that you can provide the greater and accurate feedback to the person. Can you understand what I'm trying to tell? Fake it portion.
Yes, yes, you can get what I'm saying.
I'm saying that increase and try to increase the fake it portion of the personality. That means you should have that ample knowledge base so that the person sitting in front of you can give the accurate information, accurate feedback to that person. If he is willing to receive that in particular information. If he is not ready, you cannot do anything. Getting my point? So this Johari window is basically talks about this portion of your particular portion, and also we have to reduce the blind spot. Now, when we talk about the blind spot of the personality, this is the portion where we are having in that particular case ki we don't know about myself and others know about me. So we have to reduce that portion. First we need to understand, we have to think ourselves so that we can be known to myself. Then if some person is saying this is your personality and this is the trait of your personality, and if I do not know the trait of that specific trait of my personality, so this is basically the blind spot. So we have to reduce this blind spot of that personality, and we have to increase the fake it portion. That means we have to increase the knowledge level of ourselves, and also the world in front of we have to increase the knowledge level about that. In that case only, if we do this, then only we can provide a good feedback to the person, and we can share or communicate the information to the rural person. Like if I am an extension agent, you understand the extension agent or the change agent. If I am going to make the become the person who are going to visit a village where I'm going to educate the farmers for cropping or farming, that means I have to understand that what are my strength, what are my knowledge level, what are the information with us, how much the knowledge level I am having. When I can understand myself, then only we'll be able to make them understand what are the information I have and they don't have. In some cases what happens ki when we have some specific or greater techniques of farming, we move into the villages, and the farmer says that ki your technique and your particular farming technique, which is being very costly for us, and we cannot afford that. And in that case what happen, they don't purchase or don't adapt that particular newer technology or the improved practice. And when they don't improve, they take that improved practice, so that means our visit to that particular place is going to in ruin. So in that case, we have to increase and we have to make them understand what are the different benefits out of that particular improved technique. And if you are not able to make them understand ki what are the improved practices in this particular technique is having, then how we will we convince them to accept that particular technique. So this particular Johari window talks about that particular portion of your personality, that you have to improve on your personality itself. You have to improve on your fake it portion of the personality. You have to increase your knowledge level, and you have to tell somebody else or the person or the villager that particular information I am having, you don't have having, because I know all types of pros and cons available right away with that particular technology. So you have to understand we have to this Johari window helps us to understand this particular fake it portion and the blind spot existing in that body. Now, if I say reasons for giving and receiving feedback, why we give and receive feedbacks. First element is that is called personal growth. For personal growth of what? Personal growth of ourselves and personal growth of the person in front of us. In both the cases, we have to understand this particular feedback is important. If I being an exchange agent or the change agent, obviously I will be working from some specific NGO or some government organization. So that means I have to increase the level of that particular NGO or the government, whatever the targets are given by that particular NGO to us. So we have to increase that. And in that case also we are talking about our personal growth as well. And if we are giving feedback to some particular person or the farmer or the villager, if we are talking about the improved practices, so we are also talking about the personal growth of that person as well. So that means in the both the cases the win-win situation. Giving feedback and receiving feedback, both are very important. If you are giving feedback to somebody, so that means you are helping his growth, in his personal growth. And if you are receiving certain positive feedbacks from some person, so that means you are receiving personal, you are gaining personal growth for yourself. So it's a two win-win situation. Another reason is find out about self. That means I've already gone through that Johari window concept, that when you are receiving feedback from somebody, that means you will try and discover some new facts about yourself. You will understand what are the different aspects about your your personality, about your knowledge level, which you do not know. Sometimes what happen, we don't have those information which others can tell us. Yeah, like if you are having a friend circle, you move into with them, and there are many informations are with the friends with you do not know about yourself. So when you receive feedback from your friends, you understand, yeah, this I can do as well, or this is the strength I have, and I do not use this strength in my particular career. So there are many things which we do not know. So receiving feedback is a good reason to accept the feedback. Another is the gain insight. When you receive feedbacks or you give feedbacks, in both the cases you gain certain insights. Your mind is explored. When your mind is explored, you start receiving and giving certain new insights or new concepts and new philosophies to the persons. If you are sitting in front of some villager and talking about how to enable your lifestyle, how to increase the lifestyle or the knowledge level or the skill level to that person, in that case what happens, you are talking about that frame of mind or the lifestyle which you are trying to achieve. So in that case, you are moving into that insight as well. In both the cases, it happens. And fourth is the open environment. When we talk about open environment, this is when open environment is what? Open environment is that particular situation when you talk about those things which you cannot do on your own. So in that case, what happened? Open environment, it gives you an situations or the conditions in your life which you when you can thought about those things as well which you're not thinking before. So these are certain reasons for giving and receiving feedbacks. Now I will talk about the guidelines. See how to give feedbacks. What can be the what are the guidelines for giving feedback? Specific rather than general. When we are giving feedback to somebody, I'm talking about only giving feedback. Guidelines for giving feedback. What can be the guidelines? Specific rather than general. That means if you are talking to some villager or some specific, that means we are doing an interpersonal communication with with some person. In that case, what you will do, you will talk specific. That means you will talk specific about his personality, about that specific problem, not a general problem. If we both are talking to each other, that means if you are giving feedback to me, that means you will talk straightforwardly to me and you will straightforwardly talk specifically about my characteristics and the personality. You will not talk general. Getting? So this is called first guideline. This is the first guideline of giving a feedback. For second is focus on behavior. Like we were seeing that particular advertisement, so in that advertisement we were checking the behavior of the different infants who are laying in that hospital, and that person who are talking about those particular infants or given speeches to them. So in that case, what he is basically, he is focusing on the behavior of those kids. That means the feedback should be very focused. You have to be very focused on the behavior of the person of which you are providing the feedback. Takes next is takes into account that needs the receiver. You talks about, you just only talk about those things which is needed by that receiver. Like if some villager is, you are talking or you are giving some feedback to some villager, and you are talking to that person or about that information which he is not willing to receive, or he is not it is not needed with that particular villager. So there is no reason for giving a feedback. So that means only give feedback when it is necessary and it is in the needs of that receiver. Solicited uh, means ki if some particular information which is given by that particular if you are giving some feedback to the particular villager or some person, if that particular is is ready to receive that information. If he is not ready to receive that information, that means he do not you not gives that kind of information. Sharing of information rather than advice. Always be a friend. You have to, the style of communication should be friendly and socialized. In that case, you have to share the information rather than give the advice to that villager. So in the rural communication, it's a must-win thing. कि you have to give advices. You have to share the information rather giving them the advices. And very important thing, that is well timed. If it is well timed, means if you are given the information within the time limit, if that villager is ready to give you only 2 minutes and you are talking them for last 5 minutes or 10 minutes or last 1 hour, that means it will not be work for you. So that means only in within given frame of time, if you have given the information, then only it will be okay, or it will be accepted by that particular person. Otherwise it will not be accepted. So well timed information or well timed feedback is rather accepted. Involves the amount of information receiver can use. You have to give only the amount of information that he can use. If you are talking about more than that, that means he is not ready to accept that particular feedback. So only give that much amount of information that particular receiver is going to receive. Checked for clear communication. Yes, you have check the information. Whatever the information you have used, you are going to give, that is basically checked, or it is right information. And it's for clear communication, means there should not be any doubtful cases you have to discuss, or doubtful information you have to discuss. Only discuss or follow that information which has been verified information. Evaluate, not judge. What you have to do, you have to evaluate the things. You have to evaluate the information. You have to evaluate that person sitting in front of you. But you have not you should not judge the person by that feedback. Like if some person is portraying himself in front of you in some case, that doesn't mean his whole personality is like that. So in that case, you do not judge that personality. You have to evaluate that particular personality. Getting? So these are certain guidelines for giving feedback. Now, it is very important how to receive feedback. That guidelines were for how to give feedback, and these are the guidelines for receiving feedback. The first thing is be non-defensive. If some person is giving you the feedback, first try to accept more and more information. Be courteous to them. Be smooth to that particular person who is giving you the information. And be non-defensive. Don't be offensive to that person. Whatever the positive, whatever the negative information is coming from that person for you, just try to accept that information. Try to filtrate that information, ki what is correct information and not, in your mind only. Don't be offensive to that person, and be non-defensive. Ask for more information. Yes, if you have any question in your mind, in that case what you will do, you can ask for more information. If you want any clarification about some, or you have some doubt for some feedback, so what you can do, you can ask more questions about that information. What is the information related to which fact, or if he has taken some information or giving some feedback on some particular special issue, why that particular information is being floated to you in that form. So you can receive the feedback. In that means you have to be always being courteous. The first point again comes, that means you do not have to be offensive, you have to be non-defensive. Say that you do not want feedback. Yes, wherever, if you feeling that you are offensive. So what you can do, the simple thing, say that you do not want any kind of feedback about your information sharing. If you will say that, that means there will be no scope of being defensive or non-defensive on that particular aspect. So it's a good gesture to give the right away the information that there is no need to give any kind of feedback for that particular thing. Now, what to do with that feedback? Now, you have studied the guidelines of giving feedback, you have seen the guidelines for receiving feedback. Now, what you have to do with that feedback? Now, you have to think about it. You have to make the filters of that. What are the positive feedback? What are the negative feedbacks? Maybe possible there are some wrong feedbacks will be are given to you. In that case, what you will do? You will think about that. You have to make a rectification on that, ki what can we do with that particular feedback. So you have to do that. You have to do the conceptual work on that, ki what type of conceptual work you can make upon that. Think about that and use it. Whatever the positive information you got from that feedback, just try to take that information, try to use that information in a way you want to use that. Just use that information, and rest of the information you just forget about that. So that means filtration process in that feedback is very necessary. Whatever the proper and good information or the constructive information you are getting from somebody about yourself, about your feed, about anything as well, like an extension agent you are working. And in that case, in that extension agent, what you can do, you can the person can share the information, or the you have shared the information then to them, and the person is giving you the feedback. In the both the cases, in both the cases you have to do
Uri serious?
in,
Tiba kabitu You okay? Ubu ndi mu kinasi.
Simon, I think you need to switch off your you mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, huh. So I was talking about what to do with the feedback. So just make a filtration process about the feedback the person giving to you. Think about that, and whatever the constructive, the positive information you are getting out of that, just try to use that information into constructive way. And rest of the information which you think that they are not being any kind of use for you, that means you have to forget that information. Or if some constructive information is there also in that particular portion, you have to make a rectification on those. There may be some negative feedbacks about you which are with you or the person is giving to you. Not this is not necessary all the time that the negative information is going to harm you. You have to think about that, if the negative information is coming from somewhere, so what how we can use this information in a positive way. So just forget that information which is need useless for you. Just forget that information, but you have to make a filtration activity on that portion also, ki what is the information is correct, what is the information is needed by you, and how you can improve on that particular communication level. Getting? So these were the things which I need to I was uh, having with me today. So now the question answer round is there. If you have any kind of question, you can ask. Or you can write it in the chat box as well. Okay, I have one question from Kenny. In communication, they always say the true meaning of the message is with the sender. Receiver only decode a message in relation, or okay. Yes, it is true. It is true that the the sender, his sender is always try to give his own meaning to the receiver, but maybe problem, there is a problem in the decoding as well. Like in there are different languages. If I talk about English language or different kinds of languages, somewhere if we talk about, there are different gestures, and the way you communicate the things, they are being decoded by the receiver in the same way, and sometimes they are not being decoded in the same way, or in the way you are intended to give that information to that particular receiver. So what happens in that time, this becomes very difficult to understand what particular information you want to get, or the person is intended to give you that information. So in that case, we have to understand especially the language, and you have to understand the true meaning. If you need any kind of correction, if you want any correction in decoding, so you have to just ask that particular sender, what is the exact message you have to give me, you want to give me. You just decode that message in some other way, or in the corrected way, so that I can understand the same meaning what you are intended to tell me. Getting my point, Kenny?
Yes, yes, I'm getting your point.
Okay. Okay. Next question is, feedback is also important to pay attention to non-verbal communication, because it say, okay, feedback is important way to pay attention, yes, for non-verbal communication. Now, if we talk about non-verbal communication, I've already told you that there are two types of way of communication: verbal communication and non-verbal communication. If we are communicating non-verbally, so that means we are trying to give some gestures or some posture or some symbols or some signs to that person. If the person in sitting the person in front of us is having the knowledge about that symbol or the gestures or that particular, then it is very easy to then it becomes very easy for both the person to communicate with each other very easily. But it is very difficult for that situation, like I was talking about the cross cultural communication. Like if we talk about the cross cultural communication, there are different kinds of persons who don't understand the different non-verbal gestures or communication with each other. So that what happens at that time when I don't understand the gestures or the non-verbal ways of your lifestyle, so I cannot understand what you are thinking. At that point, what you have to do, we have to use the verbal communication. And because verbal communication is the right way to tell your way of understanding anything, or to tell anybody what you are intended to say in that particular portion. So I think verbal communication is more powerful tool to communicate your words, or any or especially in the cross culture communication. If you are belonging to the same culture or same kind of, like you are sitting there in Africa, I am sitting in India. So I and also we are on online. If we are in front of you, and if I want to understand what is the non-verbal ways to say the things with you, so in that case I can understand. But online, only in one meeting I cannot understand what are the different kinds of gestures you are portraying to me. So verbal communication will be the good way to communicate your meaning or communicate your information or messages in the formal way, formal communication. Yes, Kenny, if you have any other question.
No, no, it's clear. No, I don't have any question.
Okay, thank you, Kenny.
You're welcome.
Simon, if you have any question, you can ask, or you can.
Uh,
Yes.
And not really, like I've not been following well because my network has been off and on, but
Okay.
I've been trying to capture whatever you have been talking about. And
Okay.
if at all
Okay.
I have any question, I'll first review and then send you at least some little questions that I have.
Okay. 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 You can write on the chat box as well if you want to write if you have any question.
All right, doctor.
Hmm. Okay, today I've covered like it was 1 to 3 units you have to cover today. So I have covered at least 2 units today. Tomorrow, when we'll have the lecture at the same time, I want to wrap up all the units at one go. Uh, I have already prepared my notes for tomorrow, so you will be getting all those things tomorrow. So I think the numbers will be more. Today is very less number of students are there. And when we talk about the communication, it is also seen that key different types of communication models. Tomorrow we'll discuss about the different approaches have been taken. Like we will talk about the historical evolutions. Even I will talk about tomorrow about what are the different schemes and different government roles uh, for rural development has been initiated in India as well. So that means in that case you will be getting an idea what kind of initiatives you can take in your country. There are many extension education programs are given conducted here in India. No, first you need to understand what is extension education. Extension education is basically for increasing the knowledge level and the awareness level and for improving the skill set of the persons. Obviously, when we talk about the rural development, that means we talk about the persons living in the rural areas. Now, persons means the women, the kids living there. How we can raise up the living standards of these persons through the knowledge level. If we are providing health securities, different health issues are there in the rural areas, so we can take up some issues related to the health to these in the health sector. And also the different villagers and rural persons um, take care of the animal husbandry. So that means in that case this can be an animal many persons take care of these animals like goats. They pet they in their houses, and goats, cows, buffaloes, camels. These are some local animals which we have in there in India. So you can government also support them in that particular initiative, as well as there are some forestry extension as well, extension education as well, where we use that particular land for forestry, which is not a part of land forest. Forest land is different where people do not live, but I'm talking about that particular land which is in the coverage of that people land. So they use these land for different specific species of plants. So government also promote these particular extension programs. So in these extension educations are given to these persons. Now tomorrow these things I will talk about. I'm just giving you the glimpses about tomorrow's lecture. And apart from that, different communication. methods are also how we monitor and how we evaluate the different communication plans. When we talk about communication, that means I'm talking about the marketing of these particular programs or government which are going to be beneficial for the rural person. These rural people do not know the different kinds of plans are floated by the government for their benefit. So what we have to do, we have to just go through these and share the information and flow this information as much as possible to these rural people, so that they can be benefited about of these kind of initiatives which are being taken by the government. So, like, if you are you can use these information in your country, obviously, like food securities issue in your country, which is they are taken. So India is taking care about these international issues, like the food security, like your poverty level. We have to improve on the poverty level as well. So there are schemes we are having. We want to tell you what are the different schemes and promotions we operate here in India, and in that case you can use this information in your country. If you can open your photos so that I can click a photo picture. Open the cameras. If you can open the cameras, please. Kenny, what was your feedback about this class?
Yeah, the class was okay. I think I've gotten the much of what you have said. So to me, it was a fruitful class and full of insight. I've
Yes.
really enjoyed the class.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Tomorrow's lecture I will try to make more lucrative. Obviously, I will take more information for you for that class. I've already collected that information. So that will be more informative class for you tomorrow. So I will be willing. It will be very good if more person can join this class tomorrow.
I think postgraduate diploma we have few. That's why the numbers are low.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I don't know if the numbers will be bigger tomorrow, but I'm sure will be fewer. I don't know if we can reach five tomorrow. I think it'll be fewer still.
Okay, okay. Maybe the time is you they all get the timings on your mails, I think, for the class. I don't
Yes,
know
they
what.
did.
Yeah, I
They
don't know what
sent.
the issue. Yes, you got the
They
timings
did
on the
send it.
mail. Yes,
Yes,
but I don't know why they don't join for the classes. I think if the persons are more, it will be more interactive session. If we talk about these things, what concept I was discussing, so there'll be more things we can discover here. So it will be more beneficial for you as well for make things understand.
definitely, definitely.
Yes, 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 yes.
I think some also have issues with joining. I think it's technical
Yes.
problem. I've
Okay,
heard
okay,
some people
okay,
complaining about the to be admitted to the class. They have problems.
okay, 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 okay. You belong to MARD program or PGDRD program? To which
No
program?
postgraduate diploma.
UK, you PGDRD program.
Yes.
Okay, 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 okay. You have started working on your dissertation?
Yeah. Now in planning phase, I think the topic and the introduction part, the face. Yeah, I'm working on proposal.
Okay, who's your guide?
Dr. Harry, Dr. Harry.
Okay, Hari Nandan Kushwaha.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's good. I think class is going to end up now. So we'll meet you tomorrow for the class at the same time.
Okay. I'll see you
Okay.
tomorrow then.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kenny.
You're welcome. You're welcome.